Hey, this is Luffy from the FFd20 Crystal Hub, the official podcast for the Final Fantasy D20 system. Unfortunately, Chaos can't make it today. He's got some work scheduling issues that he's got to take care of, and it's kind of been like that for a while, so it's just me. But, you know, in the future, we'll probably start bringing in some other people that are more familiar with the classes or systems that we'll be going over, so it'll be a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and just get right into the meat of things. Today we're going to be talking about the Archer class. The Archer class specifically focuses on the use of bows. There's not much else that the Archer has going for it in terms of combat ability. They can wield some short swords, long swords, whatever, but you're mostly going to be sticking to bows. So Archers have a D8 hit die. They have a 3/4 base attack bonus progression. Their good save is reflex. They got bad will, bad fort, but that's not really a huge deal. The Archer's class skills are acrobatics, climb, craft, heal, knowledge geography, knowledge nature, perception, ride, stealth, survival, and swim. And they also get 4+ intelligence modifier skills per level, so they can do a decent amount of skills outside of combat. They're proficient, like I said, with bows, so longbow, short bow, composite longbow, composite short bow, great bow, and simple weapons. And they also get proficiency with light armor, but no shields, which that's a given, they wield bows. So they got 2 limit breaks, as all classes do. They get Hail of Arrows, which is an AoE within 60 feet, 1d6 damage per archer level, reflex save to half it. Pretty solid, to be honest. The ability to do any sort of AoE damage early on is always pretty nice. And then True Shot Arrow gives you a bonus to your attack for every archer level that you have, and then if you hit with that attack, the damage is maximized, both of them being a standard action to use. So pretty solid, honestly, for a ranged character. At first level, they get Archery Style, which gives them the Precise Shot feat, even if you don't meet the prerequisites for it, which is great because, man, Precise Shot, I think it requires point-blank shot to get, and it's also pretty necessary for any ranged character. Of course, you lose the ability to have Precise Shot via the class feature if you're wearing medium or heavy armor, but you're not going to, so it doesn't really matter. Aim is another ability they get at first level, which actually got a change recently. It used to be when you aimed, you could give up a tick on your initiative order, so your initiative would like go down for every turn that you quote-unquote aimed, and you get a bonus based on how many turns you passed before you let go of your attack. Now it is, as a full round action, you gain a bonus to attack and damage when using, bows and crossbows, oddly enough. And that's based on the table, so I think it progresses. Yeah, every odd level you get a +1 to it, so at first it's +1, at third it's +2, etc. So it's a lot better now than it was before in terms of being able to deal more consistent damage. But on the other hand, the idea of having aim more like the tactics version where you actually took the time to make that shot count, I don't know, it felt better flavor-wise for me. But mechanically this works a lot better. It's a lot easier to manage the bonuses and everything else, so not bad. At second level they get Hawkeye, which is a bonus to perception checks, and you get an increase to your range increment for bows and crossbows, again, even though they don't have proficiency with crossbows. That increment goes up by 5 feet. And then every 3 levels after second, you get another +1 to your perception checks and another 5 feet for your range increments on your bows and crossbows. At second level, they get Precision Shot, which allows the archer to add a set amount of damage. It's basically like a sneak attack for archers. It's precision damage, can only be done to targets within 30 feet, and they get 1d6 starting off, and then every 4 levels afterwards they get another d6. And then, yeah, when you get the ability to do a ranged flank, you also apply your precision shot damage to that too, so pretty solid. At third level, they get Evasion. It's always really good. Past that reflex save, you're not taking any damage. Dead Shot at third level also. When you attack with a bow or crossbow, as a ready to action, you get your dex bonus as added onto your damage roll. So, I mean, its usefulness really depends on what type of player you are. If you like to make ready attacks on people that are going to move within your range, then this ability is really good for you. Otherwise, it doesn't add that much, so I mean, you could get away with not using it. Going on to 4th level, they get High Ground, which is when you're 5 feet or more above your target, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to all attack rolls. This is pretty useful if you're playing like the long-range scout type of archer, where you're always up above on the high ground trying to like get a good look out. This ability also increases the range of your other special abilities. It actually doubles the distance that you can use precision shot and point blank shot, so 60 feet instead of 30. But it doesn't increase your normal attack range, just those two abilities. At 4th level, they get Expert Archer, so they get a +1 bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls when they're using a bow or crossbow, and increases by 1 every 4 levels after that. It's kind of like Chosen Weapon, but for an archer. Improved Archery at 5th level, you get, well, you don't get, but you're treated as having the bullseye shot feat, even if you don't meet the prerequisite for it, much like the precision shot at 1st level. Just like that ability also, when you're wearing heavy armor or medium, you don't get it. But that's okay though, because you really don't need the medium or heavy armor to get by as an archer. You got plenty of AC just from your dex and the light armor. And in case you're not familiar with a bullseye shot feat, what it does is it allows you to spend your move action to steady your shot, effectively giving you another +4 circumstance bonus to your attack roll, as long as you make your attack before the end of your turn. And being an archer, you're really not going to move around too much once you get into position, so you might as well be using that like almost every turn that you're in combat if you're just making regular attacks. Also at 5th level, you get access to Hunter Tricks, which you get 1 at 5th level and every odd level thereafter, so 5, 7, 9, etc. Typically they give you like some sort of bonus or a bonus to allies or a debuff to enemies. Also, the fact that a lot of these only cost a swift action or like a move action to use makes them worth having. However, there's not a whole lot on here that's busted. I think the most useful ones out of the entire list would be Deft Stand. You can use a move action to stand up without provoking attacks of opportunity. Tricky Shot, as a standard action, you can make a ranged attack that ignores concealment, soft cover, and partial cover. Uncanny Senses, +10 insight bonus to perception checks for 1 round as an immediate action. Skill Sage, as long as you have at least 1 rank in a skill, you can use a free action to roll twice on that skill check and take the better result. Oddly enough, there's a lot of melee focused Hunter Tricks, which I could see the use behind them. Some people do carry a melee weapon in case they get caught off in small situations, but most of them I just don't see coming into play that often. But you never know. There's always use for any of the Hunter Tricks, to be completely honest. At 6th level, archers gain a 10-foot movement speed while they're wearing light armor and have no more than a light load. At 12th and 18th level, this bonus increases by another 10 feet, so 20 and 30. Eventually you'll have a 60-foot standard if you're human, which is pretty solid. Trick Shot at 6th level, you can choose Disarm, Feint, or Sunder, and you can perform that action with a bow or crossbow against any target within 30 feet with a -4 to your attack roll. At 10th level, and every 4 levels after that, you gain another Trick Shot, and they use arrows as normal, they're maneuvers. At 14th level, you can also choose from Bull Rush, Grapple, and Trip, and the ability to trip somebody with a fucking arrow is great. I would not pass that up once that becomes available. A target grappled by an arrow or bolt can break free by destroying the arrow, but you know, that takes a whole action. Or they can use an escape artist or a strength check. So, just having the ability to immobilize people or to disarm with a ranged weapon is pretty good. At 7th level, archers get the improved version of Deadshot, which makes it to where when they do a ready to action now, their target is denied its dex bonus to AC, which means a lot of things. You still get your plus dex to your damage when you do a ready to action, and now you can also apply your precision shot damage when you're doing a ready to action, since they're denied their dex bonus. And at this point, the archer becomes a lot more attractive in terms of having one in the party for long range damage dealing, since they aren't as held back anymore by the fact that they don't need to be attacking in the surprise round or making somebody flat-footed to begin with so that they can get their extra damage off. But moving on, at 8th level, archers become even harder to kill as they gain access to Uncanny Dodge, which means they can't be caught flat-footed, nor do they lose their dex bonus to AC if the attacker is invisible. You still lose your dex bonus to AC if you're immobilized. And of course, if somebody uses bluff to feint you or whatever, you're still going to lose your dex bonus then too. At 9th level, you gain Safe Shot as an archer, which, man, this ability is good. You don't provoke attacks of opportunity while you're making a ranged attack with a bow or crossbow anymore, so you can just be right on top of somebody, firing arrows into their face, and they can't do anything about it anymore. It's great. It's one of the best abilities in the class, in my opinion. To top that off, at 10th level, you get Archery Style Mastery, which gives you the improved Precise Shot feat that you don't need the prerequisites for to use, and at that point you now ignore anything but total concealment and cover with your ranged attacks. But much like the original archery style you get at first level, if you're wearing anything besides light armor or no armor, you lose the benefits of it, but big whoop, am I right? At 11th level, you gain access to ranged cleave, which is exactly like normal cleave, but you're using a bow. Knock someone down to 0, take another shot. Do the same thing, take another shot, you know. It's the same as its melee counterpart. Also at 11th level, you gain access to improved evasion, so now you're only taking half damage on failed reflex saves and still taking no damage on past reflex saves. So you're pretty hard to kill at this point, and you're dishing out some whopping damage. 12th level, you get Take Aim, which is kind of a throwback to the original aim ability, but you make a full round to, you basically spend the whole round, not just a full round action, but the whole round to aim at a target, and as long as they don't move more than 5 foot, you add your class level to your ranged attack rolls against the target next round. So if you're doing like the hidden archer sort of thing, where you're hiding out and you're just holding on, this ability becomes really good, especially with the full round attack. You get 3 solid attacks off that are almost guaranteed to hit at that point, since you're adding 14 to your attack rolls. The only way you're going to miss probably is with a nat 1, or if the creature has mischance or something, entropic shield, whatever. At 13th level, the archer gains a +2 dodge bonus to AC against ranged attacks, and at 17th level it goes up to 4. Pretty situational, but I mean it comes in handy when you really need it to. At 14th level, they get critical aim, which increases the threat range of all bows and crossbows that they wield by 1, and they gain another increase to that range at 18th level. And it does stack with improved critical feat or keen effects on weapons, so you can become a crit efficient archer pretty easily at this point in the game, which you'll probably end up doing anyways, given that with the right circumstances you're not going to miss most of your attacks. And also this is the point where things in the archer class abilities start to like pick up a lot, and you become a lot more deadly. At 15th level, you get Penetrating Shot, which if you confirm a crit with your bow or crossbow, the arrow goes through the target and strikes another target in a line behind it. And you just have to be able to draw a line through both targets to make that additional attack. And you take a -4 penalty to the additional attack, as well as like range modifiers. Also, if that attack is a crit, the arrow can continue to go, so you can just keep critting, and as long as you keep critting, the arrow can keep going. It's exactly what I was referring to a minute ago when I said you're probably going to end up crit fishing, just because the archer abilities make really good use of critical attacks. At 16th level, you finally get the ability to flank as a ranged character, as long as you're within 10 feet and you're wielding a bow. So man, this opens up a whole lot of opportunities for other flanking necessary to like sneak attack, whatever. Just the ability to give your allies flank bonus without having to be right next to the target is incredibly beneficial. At 17th level, archers gain Volley, which is basically a smaller version of their Hail of Arrows limit break, but it also doesn't work quite the same. At 17th level, as a full round action, an archer can make a single bow or crossbow attack at his highest base attack bonus against any number of creatures in a 15-foot radius burst, making separate attack and damage rolls on each creature. So you're less likely to hit everything in that AoE, but they also don't get a save to half the damage or negate it, so it's a really good way to hit numerous enemies without spending daily resources like limit breaks or spell casting just to hit a few extra enemies. Also, the ability can crit since you're making an attack roll against each target, so you got that going for you if you're building crit fishing type characters. At 18th level, the archer gets improved Uncanny Dodge, which makes it to where they can no longer be flanked at all. If they do get flanked, the people that are flanking them, they don't get any sort of bonus, or they don't get their sneak attack off. Unless, of course, they're like 4 character levels higher than the archer, which would be 22 at this point, so not very likely unless you're running a really high level campaign. Still pretty useful if you make it to this level though. Coming in at 19th level, you get Ranged Defense, which is kind of like a dodge and counter for ranged attacks. An archer gains DR5/anything against ranged attacks. In addition, As an immediate action, you can catch an arrow or a bolt that's fired at you and shoot it at any target you choose. You do have to have at least one hand free, not holding anything to use the ability, but I mean, come on. Someone fires an arrow at you, you dodge it, you catch it, immediately fire it back at them, and it doesn't use your turn or anything. It's a pretty fun and really satisfying ability when it actually has a chance to be used. Finally, at level 20, you get the Archer Capstone, Master Archer. At 20th level, an archer's skill with archery becomes legendary. Any attacks made with any bow or crossbow that the archer wields automatically confirms all critical threats and have their damage multiplier increased by 1. In addition, you can't be disarmed while wielding any sort of bow or crossbow. So pretty good capstone. It's a pretty standard capstone ability for like a martial class in my opinion. It's very in line with the fighter's weapon mastery capstone, except weapon mastery gives critical threat range, whereas Master Archer gives increased damage multiplier. But overall, not bad. You're not going to be disarmed or anything since you're wielding a bow most of the time. Not all the time. If you're not wielding a bow all the time at this point, you're doing something wrong in my opinion. It is the Archer class after all. So that covers the main abilities of the Archer. I'm going to go ahead and jump into archetypes, and then we'll talk about what races might dominantly be archers and what favored class bonuses the races give that might be beneficial to the Archer. So let's go ahead and start off with the Arcane Archer, and we'll work our way down alphabetically for the most part. So Arcane Archer, starting off, they lose Knowledge Nature as a class skill, but they gain Knowledge Arcana and use a magic device. And from this point you can really already tell that they're going to be a lot more focused on some sort of arcane arts alongside their archery. At second level, the Arcane Archer loses Precision Shot, but instead they gain Arcane Pool, which as a swift action they can add a +1 enhancement bonus to their weapon for a minute, and for every 4 levels after second level it goes up by +1 to a maximum of 5. You can also stack existing weapon enhancement bonuses with the bonus gained from the Arcane Pool, but it still only goes up to a maximum of +5. And this Arcane Pool has a number of points in it equal to half of the Archer's class level plus their Wisdom modifier, so generally you're probably going to have like 3 to 4 points starting off depending how much you're willing to invest in Wisdom. At 4th level, instead of gaining Expert Archer, the Arcane Archer gets its main shtick, Arcane Archery. As he gains levels, an Arcane Archer learns how to imbue his arrows with magic energies. Starting at 4th level, an Arcane Archer gains 1 Arcane Archery. He gains an additional Arcane Archery every 3 levels of Archer attained after 4th, so 7, 10, etc. There's a decent number of pretty good Arcane Archeries. I'm not going to go over all of them, but the ones that I think stand out the most are Spell Shot, of course. As a move action, you can spend a number of Arcane Pool points equal to half of the spell's level, rounded up to add the effect of a single target spell from a willing ally's spell list to your next single ranged attack. If the attack hits, you deal your normal damage, and then the effect of the borrowed spell. And the spell functions off the caster's level and casting modifier, so however strong their spell would normally be, that's what you would use. But the DC for the spell would be based off your Arcane Archery DC, so 10 plus half of your Arcane Archer levels plus your Wisdom modifier. And honestly, this is my favorite ability off all of the Arcane Archeries. It basically turns you into the Steiner of archers, where you borrow other people's spells instead of firing off your own. But it's really satisfying, especially when you land that arrow and you get the extra spell, because it kind of makes your other party members feel a lot more useful as well, since you need them to use the ability. But on the other hand, if you don't have very many spellcasters, or none that have spells that are, single target that would be worth using on an enemy, then it kind of makes the ability redundant. Another good one, especially if you don't have very much healing for your party, is Leeching Shot. You spend 1 Arcane point to make your next single attack at your highest base attack bonus on an enemy within your first range increment. And if you hit, you deal your normal damage, and you also heal half of that damage. And even if you do have a healer, this ability really helps cut down the amount of resources that the healer is spending to keep you alive, because you can kind of take care of it somewhat. Another pretty decent, if not somewhat situational one to take would be Guided Arrows. If you miss an attack, as an immediate action you can spend 1 Arcane Pull point and it forces your attack to hit, but you can't deal crit damage. But the attack missed to begin with, so that's kind of a given. If you end up building a really high Wisdom character, you could take Arcane Arrows. Yeah, Arcane Arrows. You spend 1 point from your Arcane Pool as a swift action, and you grant yourself a Competence bonus equal to your Wisdom modifier on all attack and damage rolls until the end of your turn. And you ignore 1 point of damage reduction per 4 Archer levels. So, I mean, it's pretty decent even if you don't have a lot of Wisdom, just to ignore damage reduction, but you really benefit the most if you're really going all out wisdom on this for this ability. And there's also elemental arrows, which allows you to just spend some pool points to give your arrows an element. You don't get any bonus damage, it just makes them deal that element. But those are most of the ones that I would consider taking early on. Once you get to 8th and 12th level, you get a lot more options available to you, especially in terms of utility or damage. On the damage side, you get Forking Shot and Bomb Shot. Forking Shot being able to fire a cone of arrows and add your Wisdom modifier as extra damage. Reflex save for half, of course. And then Bomb Shot, you spend 2 points to attack an enemy within your first range increment, and then if it hits the next turn, it deals 2d6 non-elemental damage to the target and all creatures within a 10-foot radius of the target, and they get a save to half the damage, of course. But that scales up 2d6 for every 4 levels after 8th. And once you hit 12th level, you gain access to Arcane Volley, which is basically a somewhat weaker version of the Hail of Arrows Limit Break. You expend 3 points from your arcane pool, and as a full round action you make 1 attack roll against any number of targets in a 20-foot radius burst, dealing your weapon damage and then an additional d6 per 4 archer levels, and at this point that'd be 3d6 bonus. And then they get a reflex save to half the damage. Now it says it's supposed to be a bow attack, but honestly it's really supposed to be just within your first range increment you can deal damage in a 20-foot radius burst, and they get a reflex save to half it. The other damage option that you get at 12th level is Hemorrhage, and that lets you spend 1 point from your arcane pool as a swift action to cause your arrows to make people bleed when they hit, and they deal bleed damage equal to 3 times your wisdom modifier for 2d4 rounds. They get a fort save to stop the bleeding. And while I really like this ability, unfortunately it can become really useless, especially if you're fighting a lot of constructs or undead, or even if you're just fighting stuff with really high fortitude saves. The usefulness of the ability really comes down to whether or not the enemy is going to fail to save. Now, on the other side, for utility, you got some pretty interesting stuff, honestly, for a martial character. At level 8, you gain access to Anti-Magic Arrow and Taxing Shot. Now, Anti-Magic Arrow is you make an immediate action when you are the target of a single target spell, and then you can make an attack roll with your high space attack bonus against DC 15 plus twice the spell level plus the caster's primary casting modifier. And then if you beat that DC, then the spell fizzles, but if you fail it, you take the full effect of the spell and you don't get a save. And while it's a somewhat risky option to use, it's almost always going to be better to try to use that if you have it than to take the brunt of the spell anyways. This ability requires you to take Spell Shot, but honestly most Arcane Archers are probably going to take Spell Shot as long as they have a caster in the party, so that's not really an issue. And then you also have Taxing Shot. Now Taxing Shot says you can spend 2 points from your Arcane Pool to make an attack against a single target within your first range increment. If you hit, you deal your damage, and then half of that damage is dealt to the target's MP. They get a fortitude save to half the damage to their MP. And honestly, if you're like going a mage killer build, this is one of the better abilities because it can really shut down casters in a pinch, especially if they fail that save. And at 8th level, you're going to be dealing pretty decent damage with your bow attacks anyways. But it does require a leeching shot to take it, so if you're not really trying to get that, then there's really no reason to go down. You can always take Anti-Magic Arrow instead. And at 12th level, in terms of utility, you get a pretty unique ability. In fact, I think the Arcane Archer is the only archetype or class that uses a status ailment like this. I could be wrong, I'll have to check again at some point, but at 12th level you get Addling Shot, which if anyone is familiar with the Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced series, then you probably already have an idea of what this does. So, Addling Shot. You spend 3 points from your Arcane Pool to make a single attack at your highest base attack bonus against a creature within your first range increment. If the attack hits, you deal your normal damage and the target makes a will save. If they fail the will save, they're addled for a number of rounds equal to your wisdom modifier. Now, addle disallows the use of supernatural abilities, so if you hit anybody with it, if they have like class levels, they're going to be shut down for a few turns. At least they won't be able to do anything too crazy. But it is supernatural abilities specifically, so it doesn't shut down spell casting or extraordinary abilities or anything like that. Just basically the FFd20 equivalent of action abilities from Final Fantasy Tactics. Now this doesn't become available until pretty late. I mean, you can't even take it until 13th level anyways. That's when the first chance you can take it at. But if you're going any sort of utility type archer, you should probably take it, to be completely honest. Supernatural abilities play a big part in a lot of the martial classes roles, and even some of the spellcasters have some supernatural abilities that are pretty good, so them not having access to that for a few rounds can really turn the tide of a fight. If you're going down like the damage side, it's not as attractive as an option, but I mean it's still there if you want to dip into utility, especially like I said, you don't need any prerequisites for it besides 12th level. So those are most of the unique arcane archeries. There's some other arcane pull abilities that are very similar to other classes like Arcane Redoubt and Arcane Shield, but those are not as important. Magical Renewal, when you take damage from a spell, you can absorb some of that back in your arcane pool. Pretty standard stuff, that's why I didn't really bring it up too much. Moving back on to the normal abilities you would gain from the archetype. At 12th level, you lose Take Aim, but instead you get Arcane Potency, which allows you to, once per day as a free action, you can add twice your Wisdom modifier to the DCs of your next Arcane Archery, and then you gain an additional use of this at 16th level and 20th, so you get like, at 20th level you'll have 3 uses, which is pretty good, honestly. It really helps get off those clutch, like Addles or taxing shots, stuff like that. At 15th level you lose Penetrating Shot, and instead you get Withering Shots, which anytime you make a successful range attack with a bow against a creature, you gain an insight bonus to your damage rolls against that creature, equal to your Wisdom modifier at the beginning of your next turn. This bonus stacks with itself up to 3 times, so if you manage to hit an enemy 3 times in a row, let's say you make a full round attack and you hit all 3, then you would deal bonus damage equal to your Wisdom modifier in your second attack, and then your third attack, if it hits, would deal twice your Wisdom modifier, and then next round, if you hit another attack, you deal 3 times your Wisdom modifier, and it'll stay at that 3 times until the archer misses an attack against that enemy. So this ability can be your best friend if you have like really good dice rolls, or if your bonuses are just more than enough to really land those hits consistently. At 17th level, you get Unstoppable Shot, which replaces your volley, which honestly doesn't matter since you can take the Arcane Volley, Arcane Archery if you really want the ability to hit an AoE like that. But at 17th level, a number of times per day equal to your Wisdom modifier, the Arcane Archer can, as a full round action, fire an arrow with devastating force. The arrow travels in a straight line for a distance equal to the first range increment on your bow, piercing through creatures and objects in its path. Creatures struck take his bow damage, plus an additional damage equal to half of his archer level. In addition, the Arcane Archer may make a Sunder combat maneuver check on each creature that was struck, taking a -2 on each attempt after the first. A successful reflex save negates the Sunder attempts and the additional damage. The range of the arrow decreases by 10 feet for each creature or object it passes through. This basically is your Penetrating Shot as an Arcane Archer, but you know, with a more magical flavor. And you can destroy stuff with it, given you do get it at a higher level than you would Penetrating Shot. And that's all that the Arcane Archer gets that's separate from the base Archer class. Moving on to the Battlefield Minstrel, this turns you into a Battle Bard for the most part. You get 2 new limit breaks that replace your standard ones. You get Imperial Arrow. This limit break allows the Battlefield Minstrel to charge an arrow with energy from the hum of his voice and send it flying. The arrow is splitting to hit all enemies before him in a 30-foot cone. All enemies in the area of effect take 1d6 points of non-elemental damage per archer level, and they get a reflex save to half the damage. They also get Battle Voice, which this limit break allows the Battlefield Minstrel to sing harder, lifting the spirits of his comrades to overcome all odds. Allies within 30 feet of the Battlefield Minstrel gain the effects of the Die Hard feat. In addition, all bonuses from his Ballads of the Battlefield are doubled. This limit break lasts for a duration of 1 round plus 1 round per 4 archer levels after first. Limit break only requires a swift action to use. So you can already tell that this archetype's a lot more supportive, but you do still have the option for damage here. At first level, you lose Aim, but you gain the Wanderer's Minuet, which is basically your base Bard ability. You gain the ability to attach a small harp to the end of your bow, and you can use that with your free hand while you're wielding your bow, which is pretty neat, honestly. And then at first level, for a number of rounds per day equal to 4 plus your Charisma modifier, and then it goes up by 2 rounds per arch level after that. You can do your basically bardic performance. You start with Inspire Courage at first level, and then at 9th level you get Inspire Greatness, and then at 15th you get Inspire Heroics. The benefits only apply when the Battlefield Minstrel is wearing no armor, just like a regular bardic performance. It can't be maintained at the same time as other performance abilities. It's only a move action to start a minuet, and it only takes a free action to maintain it. Changing a minuet from one effect to another requires you to stop your previous performance and start a new one as a move action. And then, like a bard, a performance ends immediately if he's killed, paralyzed, stunned, knocked unconscious, or otherwise prevented from taking a free action each round. And of course, you can't perform more than one minuet at a time. But at 10th level, you can start a minuet as a swift action instead of a move action. Otherwise, this ability functions just like bardic performances. Feats and other effects that affect bardic performances also apply to this. At 2nd level, you lose Precision Shot, but you gain Voice from the Quiver, giving life to your arrows, empowering them with every shot. At 2nd level, you can apply your Charisma modifier as a morale bonus to all attack and damage rolls with a specific type of bow that he chooses when he gains the ability. And then at 11th level, I think it's 11th level, he gains a second type of bow that he can put on that list. At 2nd level, he also loses Hawkeye, but he gains a stamina pool equal to 5 times his Constitution modifier, and then he gets another 5 plus his Con mod every level. Pool refreshes once per day after he's had full rest. Standard stuff with the stamina pool if you're familiar with them. You have abilities that use up your stamina and abilities that they lower your max stamina by an amount while they're active, and it stays that low until you turn them off. They're called sustained modes. If you have a stamina pool from another class, then you don't gain the 5 times, you just increase your stamina pool by the normal 5 plus your con mod. But the stamina pool for the Battlefield Minstrel allows you to, by default, spend 5 points to increase your speed by 10 foot for 1 round, or delay and suppress fatigue or exhaustion for 1 round, or increase one of your saving throws by +1 for 1 round. And all of those can be activated as a swift action. Alongside your stamina pool, you gain access to talent trees. Your talent trees that replace most of your main archer abilities. You lose Dead Shot, Improved Archery, Improved Dead Shot, Ranged Cleave, Penetrating Shot, and Volley. But I mean, you do get one of these talents at 3rd level and every 2 levels thereafter. And most of them are pretty good. You do gain access to 1 Sword Saint talent tree alongside your Battlefield Minstrel one, but I'm not going to go cover those in this episode. I'll either cover that in the Sword Saint episode when we get there, or in one of the offshoot episodes about character builds and whatnot. So I'll quickly go over the Battlefield Minstrel ones real quick. Barrage, at the cost of 10 stamina points as a full round action, you can make an extra attack with your bow at your highest base attack bonus, with all attacks taking a -2 penalty to the attack. This extra attack doesn't stack with effects such as Rapid Shot and Haste. This is basically the Battlefield Minstrel version of Rain of Blows from the fighter. Enhanced Barrage. Barrage no longer invokes a penalty, so it's upgraded Rain of Blows. Ultimate Barrage, at the cost of 20 stamina points, Barrage can now be used with one of the effects from his other talents, Bloodletter, Venomous Bite, Wind Bite. It does require you to have Barrage, Bloodletter, Venomous Bite, and Wind Bite. Or I'm assuming if you have one of Bloodletter, Venomous Bite, or Wind Bite, you can use this ability still. It's just you can only pick from that one. But I'll have to confirm on that. Bloodletter, at the cost of 5 stamina points as a standard action, the Battlefield Minstrel may make a ranged attack on an enemy, and if successful, deals normal damage plus bleed damage equal to his Charisma modifier. Venomous Bite, at the cost of 5 stamina points as a standard action, the Battlefield Minstrel may make a ranged attack on an enemy, and if successful, deals normal damage and inflicts poison status on the enemy. A Fortitude save can negate the status effect. The poison status effect lasts for a number of rounds equal to the Battlefield Minstrel's Charisma modifier. Wind Bite, at the cost of 5 stamina points as a standard action, you can make a ranged attack on an enemy, and if you hit, deal normal damage and inflict Squalled status on the enemy. Fortitude save to negate the status effect. Same as the poison, it lasts for a number of rounds equal to Charisma modifier. Flaming Arrow, at the cost of 10 stamina points as a standard action, you can make a ranged attack on an enemy and if successful deal normal damage plus 1d6 points of fire damage for every 2 archer levels and inflicting the burning status, successful reflex save to negate the status effect. Burning status lasts for a number of rounds equal to the charisma modifier. Arrow Burst, at the cost of 15 stamina points, Flaming Arrow can explode on hit, dealing the extra fire damage and inflicting burning status to all targets within 15 feet. A successful reflex save to half damage and negate the status effect. Burning status lasts for a number of rounds equal to the charisma modifier. So Arrow Burst is basically an exploding arrow if you've ever played Diablo 2. Also the upgraded version of the Flaming Arrow here. Sidewinder, at the cost of 20 stamina points and as a standard action, the Battlefield Minstrel can fire an arrow hitting all creatures in a 30-foot line, dealing triple his normal damage with the bow. A successful reflex save halves the damage. And boy, I really like that ability. The triple damage is pretty nice. But that pretty much covers all of the talents you get from the Battlefield Minstrel tree. Like I said, you get one Sword Saint talent tree alongside it, which, depending on which one you pick, can be really good, especially for supporting the party. At 4th level, you lose Expert Archer, but you gain Ballads of the Battlefield, a supernatural ability. And it says at 4th level and every 4 levels afterwards, you learn a new ballad to sing during battle to aid your allies. It's a standard action to activate, and it does provoke attacks of opportunity. But you can perform a ballad a number of times per day, equal to 3 plus your charisma modifier, and then all ballads last for a number of rounds equal to your charisma modifier. You got quite a few options. I'll just go ahead and go through the list. There's not too many, and they're pretty straightforward. You get Army's Paean, singing or playing to lift the endurance within your allies. All allies within 30 feet replenish their stamina pool points equal to their con mod per round. Foe Requiem, singing or playing to lower your foe's resistance. All enemies within 30 feet take a -1 penalty on all saving throws. This ballad increases the penalty by 1 for every 4 archer levels after 4th. Knight's Menae, singing or playing to protect your allies from harm. All allies within 30 feet gain a +1 deflection bonus. This bonus increases by 1 for every 4 archer levels after 4th. Mage's Ballad, Army is Paean basically, but all allies within 30 feet get 1 MPU per round. And then it goes up by 1 for every 8 archer levels after 4th. Swift Song, all allies within 30 feet gain a 10-foot bonus to their base movement speed. Increases by 10 feet for every 4 archer levels after 4th. And then War's Minuet, all allies within 30 feet gain a +1 to attack and damage rolls. This bonus increases by +1 for every 4 archer levels after 4th. So you can already, you can tell given the abilities that while you can still deal pretty good damage with the Battlefield Minstrel, they're a lot more focused on supporting allies or debuffing enemies rather than being your DPS for the party. Also, the Battlefield Minstrel loses Knowledge Nature, but they do gain Perform as part of their class skills. Moving on to the Dwarven Crossbowyer. It's honestly the only archetype that gives you crossbow proficiency with an archer, despite all of the descriptions for archer abilities mentioning crossbows. So right away, weapon proficiencies, they lose their normal ones. They gain simple weapons, hand crossbow, light crossbow, heavy crossbow, repeating crossbow, and that replaces, like I said, all your normal archer weapon proficiencies. They lose aim. Instead, they get Armor Piercer. A Dwarven Crossbowyer regularly defends his underground home from some of the most dangerous predators in the world. When using a crossbow of any sort, a Dwarven Crossbowyer reduces the armor, shield, or natural armor bonus of his target by 1. This ability cannot reduce the target's modifier below 0. For every 4 archer levels, a Dwarven Crossbowyer can reduce the armor, shield, or natural armor bonus of his target by an additional -1. A Dwarven Crossbowyer can apply this penalty to multiple aspects of the target's AC. For example, if a 9th level Dwarven Crossbowyer attacks a creature with a +1 armor bonus and a +2 natural armor bonus, he can negate both bonuses completely, given he's like high enough level. In order to use this ability, you must be within 60 foot of the target creature. Pretty solid ability, actually. Pretty interesting, because it's not like a per day thing, it's just you naturally cut through their defenses. I like it. Pack Mule. Early in his career, a Dwarven Crossbowyer learns to better bear the burden of the gear and equipment he needs during long excursions away from home. He gains a +2 bonus to his strength score for the purposes of determining carrying capacity. At 10th level, it's +4. In addition, even when bearing a large load or burdened by weighty armor, the Dwarven Crossbowyer fares better than others At 2nd level, he reduces his armor check penalty by 1 when the penalty is caused by armor or by carrying a medium or heavy load. This ability never reduces the armor check penalty below 0. At 6th level and every 4 levels thereafter, you get another +1 to that reduction, and that replaces Hawkeye. Flavor-wise, it's a pretty cool ability. Utility-wise, not a whole lot of people are worried about carrying capacity. There are some parties that I've played with that they go deep, but carrying capacity generally doesn't come up too often in a lot of parties, in my experience. At 4th level, you lose high ground, but the Dwarven Crossbowyer gains preferred environment. At 4th level, when underground or in a structure made primarily of stone, you gain a +2 bonus on acrobatics, climb, knowledge dungeoneering, perception, and survival checks. You also gain a +2 bonus on weapon attack and damage rolls. Dwarven Crossbowyer may make knowledge dungeoneering skill checks untrained. And at 10th level, the bonus increases to +4, and at 16th, +6. So a really situational ability, but it really fits the flavor of being a dwarf with the underground and all that. Also at 4th level, you lose Expert Archer, but you gain Expert Crossbowyer instead, which is exactly the same, but for crossbows. You get a +1 bonus on attack and damage rolls with crossbows, and it goes up every 4 levels beyond 4. At 6th level, you gain Camouflage, but you lose Fast Movement, which is pretty standard for a dwarf, really. At 6th level, you can use the Stealth skill to hide in any stone environment, including within structures made primarily of stone, even if you do not have cover or concealment. In addition, while traveling through natural stone environments, a Dwarven Crossbowyer does not suffer any armor check penalty or encumbrance penalty to the Stealth skill. In addition, a Dwarven Crossbowyer cannot be tracked through such an environment unless he explicitly decides to leave a trail. This is another situational but very flavorful ability, especially pertaining to dwarves. A lot of campaigns do end up going through mountainous areas or stone structures and whatnot, so it can definitely come in use in most scenarios, but still pretty situational. At 9th level, they lose Safe Shot, but they get Close Combat Shot, which is the crossbow equivalent of Safe Shot. You can make ranged attacks with your crossbow and not provoke attacks of opportunity. Threatening Shot modifies the normal Threatening Shot, makes it with crossbows instead of bows, so you can flank from 10 feet away but not adjacent. And then Meteor Shot replaces Volley, which at level 17, as a standard action, you can make one attack with a crossbow at a -4 penalty, and if it hits, it does normal damage, and then the target is subject to a bull rush or a trip maneuver using your attack roll as the combat maneuver check, rather than having to use your combat maneuver bonus. And personally, I love this ability. I have a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff with ranged weapons. You don't really have that option too often, so it can really make a fight seem really cool in some occasions. But that's really it for the Dwarven Crossbowyer. The only prerequisite you need for that is you gotta be a dwarf. Pretty simple. Moving on to the Ranger, it is literally the Ranger from Pathfinder. You get Favored Enemy, you get Track, Wild Empathy, Favored Terrain, Hunter's Bond, you get Spell Casting at 4th level. I think you get Geomancer spells. Yeah, Geomancer spells. Woodland Stride. It's an exact copy for the most part of the Ranger from Pathfinder. So I really feel I don't need to go too much into that archetype. The Skirmisher is more of a sneaky, stealthy, assassin-type archer. You lose your Hail of Arrows limit break, but you gain Incapacitating Shot, which lets you fire a single arrow at an enemy with an insight bonus of +2 to your attack roll, plus an additional 2 per 4 arch levels after first. And if it hits, the enemy must make a Fortitude save, or they become incapacitated at -1 HP and stable. If the enemy makes the save, he takes normal damage plus an additional 1d6 points of damage per 4 archer levels and becomes staggered for 1 round plus 1 round per 4 archer levels after first. So already starting off pretty assassin-like. At 2nd level, they lose Hawkeye in place of Poison use, which is pretty standard poison use ability. You gain the use of poisons, and you can't accidentally poison yourself when applying poison to your ammunition. At 3rd level, you lose Dead Shot, but you gain Sneaky Shot, which says when you make a ranged attack with a bow while under stealth, you add your dex modifier to your damage. At 4th level, you get Expert Sneak, which is one of the main abilities that this class kind of needs to work, or this archetype, I mean. At 4th level, you add half of your archer level to your stealth checks, and you can move your normal speed while under stealth without penalties. You can only use this ability while wearing light armor or nothing, and it replaces high ground. Now, high ground is useful, but for this type of character it's not necessary, and with how stealth works in regards to combat, you really need the stealth bonus, so this is a pretty useful ability. I mean, in general, it's pretty useful. At 6th level, you get Hinder. Once per day, you can make a single ranged attack with a bow at your highest base attack bonus. If the attack hits, the target takes damage as normal and must make a reflex save, 10 plus half the archer's level plus wisdom modifier, or be afflicted with the slow status effect for 1d4 rounds. You can use the ability 1 additional times per day at 12th and then again at 18th, so 3 times total max, similar to the progression for fast movement, which it replaces. And it's you can kind of see that's like an opposite. You would either move faster if you're a normal archer or slow the hell out of people if you're a skirmisher. At 6th level, you replace Trick Shot with Trackless Steps. A skirmisher leaves no trail in natural surroundings and cannot be tracked. You can choose to leave a trail if so desired. Again, attributing to that sneaky factor. At 7th level, you lose Improved Dead Shot and you gain Improved Sneaky Shot, which now adds your dexterity modifier to your damage when using a bow against any target within 30 feet, and then you double that bonus when you're attacking from stealth. At 11th level, you get Assassinate, which replaces your ranged cleave. You can study your victim for 3 rounds and then make a ranged attack with a bow that deals her precision shot damage. If it has the additional effect of either paralyzing or killing the target, which skirmisher's choice on that one. Studying the victim is a standard action. The assassination fails if the target detects the skirmisher or recognizes the skirmisher as an enemy, although the attack can still be a precision shot if the target is denied its dex bonus to AC or is flanked. If the victim of such an assassination fails a fort save against the kill effect, he dies. If the saving throw fails against the paralysis effect, the victim is rendered helpless and unable to act for 1d6 rounds plus 1 round per 4 archer levels. If the victim's saving throw succeeds, the attack is just normal precision shot, and once you've completed 3 rounds of study, you must make the assassination within an additional 3 rounds or you lose your study. At 13th level, you gain Deadly Range, which replaces Evasive Archer. You increase the range at which you can apply your precision shot to 40 feet, and then at 17th level it becomes 50 feet. So this allows you to deal that bonus damage from precision shot from farther away. At 15th level, you lose Penetrating Shot in place of Flawless Stride. You can move through any sort of terrain that slows movement, such as undergrowth, rubble, or whatever, at your normal speed without taking damage or suffering any other impairment. It does not let you move more quickly through terrain that requires a climb or swim check to navigate, nor can you move more quickly through terrain or undergrowth that has been magically manipulated to impede motion. The skirmisher loses this benefit when wearing anything besides light armor. At 17th level, you lose Volley, but you gain Hide in Plain Sight, and that allows you to use your stealth skill even while you're being observed. Pretty damn useful, though you do gain it pretty late on in your progression. At 19th level, you lose Ranged Defense, and you gained Swift Assassination, which says once per day you can use your Assassinate ability against a foe without studying the foe beforehand. You must still deal precision shot damage to her foe using a ranged weapon to effectively assassinate. And that's all the main abilities that the skirmisher gains in terms of replacing, but they do also get a few special hunter tricks added to the list. They gain Addle, which as an immediate... Oh, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier on. So I was wrong. So yeah, the Arcane Archer has Addle, and then as a hunter trick you can get Addle, which as an immediate action, when the skirmisher deals precision damage, you can attempt to disorient the target, making them unable to use supernatural abilities for 1 round. A successful will save negates. So this is a weaker version of Addle, the Arcane Archer version. Always 1 round here, 1d4 rounds on the Arcane Archer. They get also Aphonia. As a swift action, the next attack the skirmisher makes from stealth can silence the target for 1 round, disallowing spell casting. It's a silence, but a 1 round silence. Will save to negate the effect. They get Fade as an immediate action when they take damage from a ranged attack. they may vanish as if under the effect of the vanish spell. The effect lasts for as long as the skirmisher does not move or perform any other action. Attacking while under this ability does not count as attacking from stealth. Mirage. After attacking while under stealth, as a move action, the skirmisher can use this trick to attempt to return to her concealment. She must make a new stealth check at a -10 penalty instead of the normal 20. The normal -20. Which this can be incredibly useful if used right in combat, especially later on when you get hide in plain sight and other stuff. Pinpoint poison. When the skirmisher makes an attack using ammunition coated in any type of poison, the skirmisher can use this trick to force the target to forego the saving throw to negate the effect, at the cost of the poison only lasting half of its normal duration. This trick cannot be used with poisons that cause death or KO. Proliferate. As a swift action, the skirmisher can empower the next poison she uses on a single attack, doubling any numeric components of the poison for a number of rounds equal to her wisdom modifier. For example, a poison that deals 1d6 per round would deal 2d6 per round instead. A poison that deals 1 ability damage would deal 2 ability damage instead. And then the last hunter trick you gain access to as a skirmisher specifically is Nimble Feet. If the skirmisher springs a trap, she can, as an immediate action, make a DC 25 reflex save. If she is successful, the trap acts as if it has not been sprung, and she takes a -5 penalty to disable device checks for that trap. If she fails the saving throw, the trap is still sprung. And you can probably tell most of these hunter tricks are taken from the assassin class from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, specifically Adel, Aphonia, and Fade. But I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Outside of the hunter tricks and the replaced class features, you also lose heal and disable device as class skills, but you gain use magic device and knowledge geography to your list of class skills. Overall, I really like the skirmisher archetype. I think it's pretty neat. There's a lot of interesting stuff you might be able to do in terms of like flavorful characters. Usefulness in a party. I mean, you could always use somebody that can kill somebody in one go at 11th level, but I don't know. I think this is more of an archetype you'd play if you're just trying to like have fun and be like a more flavorful character rather than someone who's going to be useful 100% of the time. Seeing as the main thing you'll be doing is stealthing around and shooting from the shadows and trying to take people out with poisons and such. But we'll go ahead and move on. We got 2 more archetypes to cover real quick. We got Hawkeye and Sniper to go over. We'll go over Sniper real quick. It's only got 3 abilities. At 3rd level, you lose evasion, but you have all range increment penalties when making ranged attacks with a bow or crossbow. So you can fire over your ranged increments at less of a deficit. At 5th level, you lose your hunter tricks, but you increase the range at which you can apply your precision shot damage by 5 feet, and then it increases by 5 feet for every 2 levels after 5th. So by 20th level, you're getting an extra 40 feet added to your precision shot range, so it's like 70 feet total. That's pretty good. And then at 11th level, you lose improved evasion. Of course you would, you lose normal evasion. And you gain Quick Sniper, which says you gain a bonus equal to half of your archer level on stealth checks while sniping. If you're hit with a ranged attack, you can shoot a bow or crossbow at your attacker as an immediate action if it is loaded. Which, pretty cool actually, a counter-attacking archer. And since this archetype focuses on being farther away and making use of distance, losing the hunter tricks isn't that bad, and losing the evasion abilities aren't that bad either, because you won't be in the fray very often. And then last but not least, the Hawkeye. This is basically the full-on Sword Saint archer. At 1st level, you lose Hawkeye, but you gain stamina pull. And yeah, you don't normally get Hawkeye at 1st level, but you kind of need the stamina pull at 1st level for it to function correctly, I suppose. Yeah, so you get a stamina pull, the normal 5 times con mod at 1st level, and then an extra 5 plus your con mod per level. Full 8 hours rest to recover it. Same effects as spending stamina points in the other one. You can increase your movement speed, delay, or suppress fatigue and exhaustion, increase saving throw by +1, and you can use all those as a swift action. Unlike the other archetype, the only talent trees you have access to are the ones specific to this archetype, but there are 2, and there's quite a few options. I'm not going to go over every little option, but I will run through a few that jumped out at me. In the archery specialization talent tree, we've got pinning shot and crippling shot. Pinning shot, of course, is an immobilize for 1 round. If you make a successful attack roll and it costs 10 stamina points, they get a fortitude save or they're immobilized. Crippling shot It costs 15 points instead of 10, but if you hit, they take damage as normal, and they have to make Fortitude save, or they're disabled for 1 round. You have to have Pinning Shot to get access to that one. Rapid Shot is a sustain mode that when you activate it doubles the amount of your ranged attacks per round, so at max level you'll have like 6 normal ranged attacks. However, you can't crit, you can't use precision based attacks such as Precision Shot, and your strength modifiers to damage are halved. And it does not stack with the accuracy sustained mode. It also uses up 20 of your current and maximum stamina pool, and requires melee archer, which personally I'm not a fan. It's just safe shot, but it costs stamina, and you get like a +2 dodge bonus if you use it while you have safe shot. If you want to crit fish, Master Archer lets you make a single ranged attack during a round, and the critical hit range of that ranged attack is increased by 2. It does stack with improved crit and other abilities, but it's calculated after all other modifiers. You have to have melee archer, again not a fan, rapid shot, and accuracy to take that one, so you'll probably be getting that pretty late if you really want to go fishing for crits. Shattering Shot is pretty neat. You can target some equipment, possibly break it. From the sniper specialization tree, some of the ones that caught my eye were Death from Above, kind of makes use of the high ground ability, and you get like extra 1d6 points of damage when you're attacking from high ground. First Blood's pretty cool when you're making ranged attacks against people that are unwounded, or targets, sorry, that are unwounded. You deal an additional 1d6 points of damage. Long Shot, make a single ranged attack. If successful, you deal your damage plus an additional d6 for every 10 feet you are away from your target. And then the extra damage is not multiplied on a crit though, but it's still pretty neat. Eagle Eye is the better version of it, where instead of every 10 feet, you get it every 5 feet. Leaping Shot, at the cost of 15 points as an immediate action, you can leap away 15 feet, which does not provoke attacks of opportunity, and fire a shot at the target who attacked you. You make a single range attack, and if you're successful, you deal half of the damage you would normally do to the target. Rolling Draw, which expands upon Leaping Shot. It says if you successfully land your Leaping Shot, you can make a ranged trip combat maneuver using your Dex modifier instead of your Strength, but the trip attempt has to be used by the end of your next turn or it's wasted. You do have to have Leaping Shot to use it. And then the last one that stuck out to me was Strafing Shots. You can double move and still make a single ranged attack, which double movement is always useful, especially when you can do stuff afterwards. And all of these talent trees replace your aim ability. Overall, the archetype's not too bad. It's definitely focused on dealing damage in a variety of ways rather than the normal archer. But yeah, solely focused on damage from the looks of it. And that covers up the archer and all of its archetypes. Going over to favored class bonuses, there's not a whole lot. Most of them have to do with critical confirmation rolls or bonus damage with Deadshot. If you're going down the aim path, then you've got Elvon and Lamia. Both of them gain 1/3 bonus damage and attack to their aim bonus. Let's see, Precision Shot, you got Ixal and Taru. They both gain 1/6 of a d6 to their Precision Shot damage as a favored class bonus. Humes are really the only race that have like a completely unique favored class bonus for this class, and they gain 1/4 of bonus damage with any ranged attack with a crossbow or a bow. I want to say most archers are likely going to be either human, Viera, Mithra, or Lamia. Those are the ones that, to me, seem more like archery-style races. However, I mean, any race that gives a bonus to dexterity and doesn't penalize your strength too much is going to be pretty decent for the archer. In terms of feats, the normal archer class gives you a lot of what you need as an archer. You're definitely going to need to take point blank shot, rapid shot if you want bonus attacks, cluster shot, multi shot. Those are all very useful. Dodge is useful since you got the high dex, and +1 extra AC never hurts. Weapon focus, of course. There's all sorts of things that you can take as an archer. But like I said, the class gives you most of what you need inherently, like precise shot. And you know, before we end this up, let's go over a few iconic characters. There's not very many archers in the Final Fantasy universe, from what I remember. The two that spring out off the top of my head are Fran from Final Fantasy XII And then there's also Rosa from 4, but she's also a white mage. And then Trey from type 0 is also an archer, and one of the cooler archers in my opinion. I really like Trey. He's a neat little character. Maybe we'll cover some of these characters when we do some episodes over iconic Final Fantasy characters and how they might be built. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, Justin, or Chaos as a lot of you know him, has had scheduling conflicts with work, so he hasn't been able to help record very much. Hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us sometime soon. I really like having him on. He's a really great presence here. And a good contrast to me, he knows a lot about some other mechanics that I'm not super familiar with. But also, I might be asking certain people that have knowledge in areas that I don't necessarily have knowledge to come on and help me run through some of these. But, you know, we'll see when that time comes. The next class we're covering, as voted by all of you in the Discord, is going to be the Dragoon. So hopefully within like the next week and a half, I'll have that out for you guys. And let's go ahead and give Archer an overall rating. Out of the core classes, I'm going to give it 2 solid gold arrows. You decide what that means. As always, there is a link to the website and the Discord down in the description of the video. And once again, this has been Luffy. I'm signing off. Thanks for joining us at the Crystal Hub, the official podcast for the Final Fantasy D20 system.